We only got one public hearing, haven't we?
Actually, yes.
You're live, sir.
We're live now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 4th, 2021 City Council virtual meeting. I want to wish everybody a happy new year, and I hope that this 2021 will be one of great blessings to everyone. I'd like to get the meeting started by having an invocation, if we may. Let's bow our heads. Our Father, we just thank you for this day and thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed on the city of Mebane. We ask that you look after our first responders and continue to bless them as they go about their work. We ask, Lord, that we implore that our citizens continue to use their masks, wear their masks, social distance, and do everything we can to stop this pandemic. Lord, we ask that you continue to bless us and bless things tonight, that everything we say and do will be pleasing to you, for we ask it in thy name. Amen. Before we get to the agenda, I would like to recognize that our new assistant city manager, though he's not here tonight, will start next Monday. And everybody knows that David's last day is the 29th of January. And but I do want to mention this. Our new assistant manager, city manager, Preston Mitchell, will be starting next Monday, January 11th. Mr. Mitchell has been the Reedsville city manager for the last 5 years. And prior to Reedsville, he was the town manager of Nashville, North Carolina for 10 years. Prior to that, he was the town manager of La Crosse, Virginia. Preston graduated from East Carolina University with a Master's of Art in Public Administration and a Bachelor of Science in Political Science. We're happy to welcome he and his family to Mebane and are looking forward to Preston being an integral part of the Mebane team starting next Monday. So we do want to wish Preston a warm welcome next week. While we welcome somebody new, we have someone who is retiring, that is announced retiring, and I'd like to recognize Wayne Poore, if I may, and I think Wayne's on now. But we have a proclamation. Good evening, sir. We have a resolution of recognition and appreciation to Wayne Poore for 30 years of outstanding public service. Whereas Wayne Poore began his career with the city of Mebane in the Public Works Department as a groundskeeper and a member of the mowing crew on October 4th, 1991. And whereas Wayne served in several other capacities during his career, including sanitation equipment operator, utility crew leader, eventually working his way up to assistant public works director. And whereas on January 1st, 2013, Wayne was appointed to the city's public works director, overseeing operations for streets, sanitation, recycling, utilities, and public facilities. And whereas the city experienced unprecedented growth during Wayne's tenure as director, yet with his leadership, the Public Works Department continued to maintain and even enhance the city's public infrastructure and facilities. And whereas in the last 8 years, the city has added 15 miles of streets, collected 32,000 tons of garbage, diverted 8,000 tons of recycled materials from the landfill, while seeing the number of homes served increase by 1,500, all under Wayne's steady supervision. And whereas when ice, snow, or hazardous weather has come to Mebane, Wayne and his crew have fought elements in the midst of the storm and cleaned up afterwards, all the while keeping the residents of Mebane safe. And whereas Wayne has delivered these services to the citizens with the utmost care and concern, calmly listening to citizens' complaints, resolving differences among neighbors, and responding quickly to citizens' requests for assistance. And whereas Wayne, with his calm, kind, patient demeanor, has earned the respect of his colleagues and staff, the trust of the city residents, and the reputation of a dedicated public service by the city council. And whereas throughout the three-decade career, Wayne has led by example, mentored his staff, instilled in them the values of commitment and teamwork, and provided excellent customer service to the citizens of Mebane. And whereas Wayne will be retiring on January 31st, 2021. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council does hereby commend Wayne Poore for his outstanding public service for the past 3 decades and expresses his deepest gratitude, its deepest gratitude and appreciation for his dedication to the community. Adopted this 4th day of January, 2021. And Wayne, I'd like to be the first to say you have been remarkable, and thank you for everything you've done for us as a council and the citizens of Mebane. The city council looks good because of city employees like y'all and like you. And thank you so much, and we appreciate it. And hope you enjoy retirement. It is a fantastic thing.
Thank you. It was an honor serving the council and the residents of Mebane. I have a great staff, and I really enjoyed all the years and the times we spent together. I'm blessed, and when you got a great council and a great mayor, we get a lot done working together. So I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. Council?
I'd like to make a comment, Mayor. I think Wayne exemplifies the type of city employees that we have, and he worked his way up from yard crews, mowing crews, all the way up to manager of the division. And I can honestly say he's one of those employees that when you called him with a problem, he had a can-do attitude, never gave any poor feedback, always went out and did the job. I've seen him out on waterline breaks, walked across the floating mill floor with him one night when it was 12 degrees. He was always there with his staff. He didn't send people out to do a job without being there with them. So I'm proud to have known him, and I think he, as I said, he exemplifies the type of employees that the city needs, and we're proud of him.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I would exemplify. I just agree with what Tim said. I've never seen anything that you've been asked to do or that I know about that you haven't done. I'll give you a free golf lesson, buddy, anytime you want it.
I need it.
Wayne, thank you for always responding so quickly and kindly to any request I made. And whomever follows you is going to have some really big shoes to fill. We're going to miss you.
Amen.
And thank you for everything, Wayne. I know I'm
miss y'all
here, but thank you for everything. You've been extraordinarily responsive, and you've jumped on it and served the residents well. Thank you so much for everything.
Well, thank you, sir.
David,
Wayne working under me for the last 8 years has made my job easier. He a lot of times gets some really angry people on the phone. And Wayne has always had a way of talking to them, listening to their problem, and then trying to figure out how we can do better to serve the people of Mebane. There's a lot of people that don't have the patience to take that call and then to turn around and get the job done, even after having an angry call. And Wayne has always been there. And during times of storms and snow, I'd always call him and say, "You ready?" And his response was already, "We've been ready the last 2 days." So folks don't understand how hard and the hours that people put in jobs like he's had over the years. And it doesn't matter what the weather is. It doesn't matter if it's hot, cold, freezing. They've got to show up anyway. Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day. So Wayne, we greatly appreciate everything you've done over the last 30 years for the people of Mebane.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Wayne, you'll be sorely missed, buddy. Thank you.
Hey, thank
Wayne, I gotta say one thing. I know you love me because I'm the one that appointed you to Public Works Director, and you decided to leave with me. So, I know we butted
you.
heads. I know we butted heads, but you were always right. Okay, I'll just say it publicly. Okay.
Okay.
I appreciate you, brother, and
Appreciate y'all.
you know why they call it Public Works? Because you're the
I
only
didn't
one
hear
doing
you,
any
brother.
work publicly. So
True, though.
we appreciate you.
I appreciate y'all
Good.
and all the other department heads. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you, guys. All right, public comments. Stephanie?
Mayor, we have 3 public comments, and before I start with 2 of those public comments, I just wanted to mention that 2 of them are related to the Diamondback project that was on Mebane Oaks Road. That went to the planning board, but it was withdrawn by the applicant. The citizens were still requesting, though, that these comments be read aloud tonight. The first one comes from Ronald and Barbara Morris. They live in the Arbor Creek subdivision at 1045 Sweet Gum Way. We have been made aware of a proposed new development adjacent to our property. While we are supportive of growth in Mebane, Diamondback Investment Group has submitted plans which raise several concerns for existing homeowners and which propose several exceptions to rules that Mebane has put in place to maintain integrity of all development. Key concerns. First is home value. We have significant interest in protecting the value of our home, which has continued to increase in value since purchasing. We have concern that townhomes will drive down the value of our home. The rezoning request. Based on information received, the developer would like approval for a rezoning request for R6 high density. However, all the adjacent neighborhoods and those that will be connected to the new development are currently zoned R20, low to moderate density, or B2 commercial. Since neighborhoods will be connected, I would request that the city stay in line with connected neighborhoods, current zoning, and deny the request to rezone to an R6 development. We have a significant investment in our home property and feel that rezoning the adjacent property will impact the value of our home. Additionally, changing to an R6 have the potential to change the environment due to potential for higher turnover of property. R6 construction tends to degrade quicker over time due to the ownership not being for a long term, and therefore the upkeep on the property housing degrades due to the lack of ownership. Saturated market. We request that the city hold off on continuing to approve new large developments until other neighborhoods currently under development are at least 90% complete. Mebane is rapidly growing, and the fact that several neighborhoods are being built means that there is a risk of too many starting up at one time and the inability to complete all of them due to a drop in demand. Also, development could take longer due to the market being saturated, and therefore those of us adjacent to those developments have to tolerate the mess for extended periods. Case in point, Arbor Creek experienced an issue where development ceased for an extended period due to economic downturn. The existing neighbors had to tolerate a partially developed neighborhood for years. Respect to current homeowners. Request that developers leave at least a half an acre of natural tree buffer between the new development and current property line. Many of the current owners, including us, paid a premium, an additional $5,000 for their lots because of the view, privacy, and increased natural area that they offered. Also, the increased natural area will assist with water drainage that is already a major issue in the area, which frequently floods after a heavy rain. Increased road traffic. With all the expansion around our area, the traffic continues to increase. Today is already difficult to turn onto Old Hillsboro Road from our subdivision due to the increase in traffic, and adding more neighborhoods is only going to make this issue worse. Additionally, we are concerned that making the road go all the way through will result in increased traffic in the neighborhood. We already have people that speed through the neighborhood, and if you connect the new neighborhood to our existing one, it will cause more traffic to fly down our road. Storm drainage. The developer is proposing to put an undesirable element of the development, storm drainage pond, directly behind current homeowners. This will increase insects and snakes and also present a potential danger to the many small children that live in these homes. In addition, there are already flooding and drainage issues in the proposed pond that backs up to Sweet Gum Way. I will request that you require any new development to grade the property to direct water flow away from existing neighborhood and locate the storm drainage ponds in the middle of their own development. It should not be placed on the edge, which would require existing homes to have to tolerate the downside. The existing homes were purchased in their specific area because they chose not to select a cheaper lot, which was located near one of Arbor Creek's storm drainage ponds. Therefore, we request that you grandfather in the existing homeowners and maintain an area behind them that is free from undesirable retention ponds. They should not be forced to now have to live next to one. Flooding issues. City engineers need to carefully assess all development and consider flooding issues to ensure it is not exacerbated by new development. A city-sponsored drainage plan needs to be developed to ensure no additional drainage issues for existing neighborhoods. Today, there is a drainage ditch 20 feet behind our house, and it already gets full of water with a downpour. Anytime we have a major rain, we are concerned and keep a close watch on the water level. I am concerned that changing the landscape behind our home could result in flooding that could reach our house. This is a huge concern. Family friendliness of neighborhood. Based on current plans, the new development has minimal year-round family-friendly features like a playground. Considering the new development and current community will be connected, there is a high probability of increased use of the current neighborhood playground, which is maintained and funded by the neighborhood HOA. We request the developer be required to add more family-friendly features to the new development. Sustainable growth and infrastructure. There are currently multiple neighborhoods underdeveloped within a 5-mile radius of the proposed development, but there has not been any new infrastructure to support all this growth. There has been no expansion of roadways, turning lanes, traffic lights, or schools. The city keeps growing at an accelerated pace, but has not invested as quickly to support all of the current or thousands of new citizens. We respectfully request that the city be measured in what they approve and when they approve. The infrastructure needs need to catch up with the development. Thank you for your time and consideration of our concerns, Ronald and Barbara Morris. Second public comment related to the same project from Ray Oliver at 909 Sugar Tree Drive. In regards to the development proposed by Diamondback off of Old Hillsboro Road, I want to reiterate concerns that many of the community members have in our neighborhood. This development as planned will connect to our neighborhood at Longleaf Pine Place. This will cause a massive increase in the amount of traffic coming through our neighborhood. At some point, Old Hillsboro Road was slated to be widened. However, that has not happened. Our concern is that this connection will cause people to cut through our neighborhood in order to avoid the congestion at the four-way stop at Mebane Oaks and Old Hillsboro. Amenities. This development as proposed has 0 amenities for their community. With this community being connected to ours, we have concerns that this will add additional wear and tear as well as use of the amenities in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is made up of 240 homes, and while we have very little amenities, a playground, gazebo, and doggy stations, our community pays for them with via our HOA dues. People who are walking through are sure to use our playground and doggy stations, which will cause us to have to pay for more maintenance, especially the bags at the doggy stations. We also often host neighborhood events at the gazebo and don't feel it would be fair to have to fund people in adjacent community partaking in these events. These could be avoided by not allowing them to connect to our neighborhood at Longleaf Pine. While we know development will happen, we please ask that this not be connected to our neighborhood. Thank you for your time. And the last public comment was received from Charles Stancati. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Let me start off by saying that I love Mebane. It's true that it is positively charming. That's why I moved here, and yes, I am part of the problem. As a resident of Mebane for almost 6 years, I feel more at home here than any place else I have lived. There is a perfect mixture of small town shops and big corporate businesses, and that gives the residents choices. However, the mixture is changing, and this positively charming town is becoming a big city with more apartments, condos, and townhouses being built than single-family homes. The stress this is putting on our infrastructure is horrible. The schools, the police, the fire department must be feeling the pressure to keep up. They only get a chance to react instead of acting and planning. When I first moved here, I would hear sirens at night, maybe once a week. Now I hear them almost every single night. The other problem that affects Mebane is traffic. The roads can't handle the amount of people now. Can you imagine what the traffic will be like when every parcel of land has as many dwellings stuffed on it as possible? All areas of Mebane have this problem now, especially during the evening hours of 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. I feel a sense of closeness in this Mebane community. Neighbors helping neighbors, walking downtown and talking and buying from local shop owners, saying hello to strangers and getting a hello back, and maybe a short conversation. I fear that Mebane is on the brink of becoming just another city with all the problems that come with it. I don't have a solution for these problems. The hope for the community is community involvement, and for the mayor and the city council to find the right mixture of small town charm and city living. And I truly hope and pray that they can do that. Thank you, Charles Sincotti. That concludes the public comments, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're moving to the consent agenda. And the first item is the final plat of Bowman Village, Phase N1. So I got the quarterly financial report ending September 30th, 2020. The snow and ice removal agreement with North Carolina DOT, and part Go Triangle renewal agreement. Is there any comments on the consent agenda?
I have a question, Mayor. On the snow and ice removal, David, how many, are any of those streets not in the city?
No, I think all those streets are in the city. Wayne may be on the call. He can probably answer that. We've been doing those streets for years, from what I understand, Tim. We just never had an agreement to do it. And we've never been paid to do it. We just do it. We've done it because it's the right thing to do, I think. But Wayne can speak better to that if he's available.
Yeah, most of those streets are inside the city limits or in the ETJ. A lot of them are the bad roads. I think I call them nuisance roads that tie up first responders, like Oakwood Street on that hill and Lebanon Road coming up from Lake Michael on that hill. We've always hit it, put some sand down and salt, and try to litigate any wrecks or vehicles, you know. But most of them, everything's in the city limits or within the ETJ.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great idea, and if we're going to get paid for it, it's an even better idea. I just was curious about what percentage of them may not even be in the city. But it's like you said, even if some of them are connector streets, that if they're not clear, create bottlenecks. But I was just curious how many of them are not in the city.
There's clearly portions of those roads that are not in the city. Lebanon would be an example where some of it is and some of it isn't, but in order to get to the sections that are in, there is a part that they're going to go ahead and plow or take care of to cover the whole road. But we will get reimbursed based on all of our labor and equipment costs and material costs.
Correct.
Any other comments?
I'd just say thanks to Wayne. I guess you've been working on that agreement, and I don't know who else, but good job on getting that set up to get some payment for that work.
Well, thank you.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. I mean, do we have a second? Excuse me.
Second.
We got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Lawson, do we need a roll call?
Yes, sir.
All right, roll call. Ms. Auditore,
Aye.
Mr. Bradley,
Aye.
Mr. Ewing,
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, we're moving into public hearings. And I think Stephanie has there you go. All right, there's been discussions about why we continue and vote on Wednesday after our council meeting on Monday night. And I'm gonna read this. North Carolina General Statute states that when a public body conducts a public hearing as a remote meeting, it must allow for written comments on the subject of the public hearing to be submitted between publication of any required notice and 24 hours after the public hearing. Therefore, all public hearings will be voted upon at the continued meeting to be held on Wednesday, and in this case, January 6, 2021 at 6 p.m. And also, in terms of comments remotely, we would like to keep them with a 5-minute maximum. Any questions, any comments? Okay, moving on. The first public hearing is an ordinance to extend the corporate limits 6016 West 10 Road that was continued from our December 7th meeting and requested by the applicant to be continued into February 1st, 2021 meeting. At that meeting in Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday night, we will vote on continuing this item into February. All right, we're moving on to the second public hearing, which is the Buckhorn Area Amended Long Range Plan. I think Cy Stover is our development director, is going to handle that.
Mayor. Oh, yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's good to be with you this evening. Before we begin and pull up the presentation, it is an abbreviated presentation. We have all slides from the December meeting available for reference should we need them. But I do want to, what I intend to present tonight is a recap of what has brought the Buckhorn Area Plan to the Mebane City Council for consideration, and a very general summary of some of the discussion and public feedback from that December meeting, and then discuss the recommended actions that are before you tonight. So, but just know that those more detailed slides that were prepared by myself and the Piedmont Triad Regional Council are available should we need them. So briefly, the Buckhorn Area Plan is this roughly 9 square mile area that you see on the map before you. This was an area that was considered for its economic development potential due to the possibility of being served by water and sewer utilities that are now owned by the city of Mebane. The sewer utilities in particular, but also the water, were paid for largely with Orange County economic development funds, and the intention of the area is to be developed as a job center, as an employment center. So that's the intended purpose of the utility lines. There are several properties that are south of West 10 Road that had not been considered previously that have great economic development potential, and we wanted to assess the potential of those properties to serve this purpose. Following action by the city council that I'll briefly highlight, about 1 year ago in December of 2019 to annex and zone 2 properties south of West 10 Road on behalf of request from Mebane. This is the product of about 9 months of joint staff planning efforts between Orange County and the city of Mebane. We contracted with the Piedmont Triad Regional Council as our consultant. And we've had, this is the 4th public meeting, the 3rd public or 2nd public hearing to discuss the matter. There was a meeting that was presented to the planning board on November 9th, a public meeting that was 2 hours long and had 35 attendees on November 10th. And then the public hearing before the city council at the December 7th meeting. And then we're here again tonight to discuss this further. And before I go back into it, I just want to remind everyone what this is and is not. So this is not a rezoning study. This is not an effort to extend the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city. This is not a study to support eminent domain that would take land to provide roads or take land for economic development purposes. This is a study to develop, to analyze the potential utility service area for the water and sewer services in the area that are owned by the city. It is an expansion of the city's future growth area in the comprehensive land development plan, Mebane by design, that is required by state law due to an action by council to bring in those 2 properties south of West 10 Road just over a year ago. Lastly, this is this is not an effort to annex anybody forcibly. All properties that would want to be considered for annexation and development and rezoning would do so voluntarily. They would be considered on a case-by-case basis. All of those annexations and rezoning requests would have to come back for further public hearing. They all require further public notification per city ordinance that requires mailings to all property owners within 300 feet of the property boundaries of a property that is requesting rezoning. It requires posting of the property with signs. It requires advertisement in the papers of record. In this case, that includes the News of Orange, Mebane Enterprise, and the Alamance News. So even after any action by the council this evening in considering the Buckhorn area plan, there are by law requirements that any actions on any of the properties within the Buckhorn area plan study area must require further public input at public hearings that would be presented first to planning board for a recommendation and then to the city council for action. And so I just want to, and then this is specifically the area that we are discussing this evening. There are 2 scenarios that have been included in your agenda packet. We can discuss how this is how different this is from what was originally presented to the city council. But if we go to the next slide, there was significant public input and council feedback regarding this nearly 9 square mile area that was presented for consideration to be included in an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan. And if we go to the next slide, based upon the council discussion and the lack of action by Orange County due to, to be very fair to them, a very full agenda on their end at this time, but there has not been any presentation to the Orange County Board of Commissioners to date. They have not considered this matter at all. And they certainly have not taken any action or had any public feedback on the Buckhorn area plan. They don't, due to the Eflin Station project, the Buc-ee's travel stop, they don't anticipate discussing this at a public forum until February. And given all of that, and given that the other jurisdiction that is a partner on this project is not taking any action at this time, Staff is not recommending the adoption of the Buckhorn area plan. We are recommending acceptance of it and use as guidance. What this means is that we are not permitted, the law prohibits us from considering this as a finding of fact when something comes before us. As staff, we cannot include it in our findings of fact when we develop our staff report and when we present a matter to the planning board or the city council. What we can say as an incidental fact is that it is consistent or not consistent with the Buckhorn area plan, but an inconsistency with the Buckhorn area plan would never be grounds for denying a project. Inconsistency with the Buckhorn area plan cannot be the sole reason that a project would be approved. It is simply a guidance document. It is not an adopted plan of the cities. Furthermore, we are recommending amendment to Mebane by design to reflect the council actions. There's a minimal requirement by state law that the properties south of West 10 Road, the Medline South properties, be included in our comprehensive land development plan to reflect the actions of the council, and that we bring all of our adopted plans into consistency with the actions of the elected officials of the city. Additionally, several other properties are being proposed to be included. That of 6016 West 10 Road, which is being considered for annexation. As the mayor noted, they've requested an extension to the February meeting, and several properties north of the I-4085 way station, of which we've had no pushback from in considering in proposing this expansion of our future growth area and industrial primary growth area in Mebane by design. What is up for discussion and consideration, we have two tonight, there are two versions of the area that you may consider. If you'll recall, and we can pull it up, this large sort of, I guess, knee-shaped or chicken wing-shaped area south of the Medline South properties is focus or growth area B. And if we go to the next map, you'll see that that has been eliminated. So these are two versions that are being presented to you tonight based upon the feedback from the public. The minimal requirement is that those Medline South properties be included in the future growth area. And we're recommending 6016, which is the property at the intersection of West 10 Road and Buckhorn Road. And then there are, as noted before, several properties north of the way station to be included. We have prepared both maps if council would like to discuss the inclusion of growth area B. And I'm happy to answer any questions at this time or go into any more detail if you'd like.
Si, you said that we own the sewer. Do we own that, or does Orange own that?
That is now a municipal line. Yes, sir.
And we don't have to wait for annexation to it. I thought it only happened when we annex something in.
So you tapping onto that sewer line per city policy requires annexation.
Okay.
Not so much annexation, but it requires the request for annexation, and then it's up to the council to decide.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. Yes, sir.
And there is an agreement with Orange County where there are areas, clearly like in the Efland area, that do not require a request for annexation. They're just served as part of the Efland area by our sewer system. Originally, that system was maintained and operated by Orange County. When the pump station was installed on West 10, that flow was diverted from Efland that was originally going to Hillsborough for ultimate treatment, now goes for treatment at the Mebane wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Stober, do you have maps consistent with the original Buckhorn area plan with the zones A, B, C, D?
Yes, sir. They are in
removed
the slide deck. Give me a moment to find them.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Do you want me to pull them up?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the number of the slide.
I think I got it.
Oh, you do? Great.
If we're thinking about the same slide, just give me a second.
Yeah, that's it. Mr. Ewing, yeah, the slide that
you were talking about.
I'm curious if we have modified these maps consistent with the two proposals from the planning department. So it sounds like CDE removed, and then the second proposal is most of B, CDE removed.
So again, what would be the recommended staff recommendation would be that the plan be accepted for guidance. These are still possible growth areas. However, pending council action, we didn't want to take any action until council takes action. We would very likely amend the maps to reflect council actions on what was formally acted upon. So A, as noted, would be completely included, and then C, D, and E would be omitted, and that discussion needs to be included in the plan before it can actually be finalized. We simply can't accept a plan that doesn't reflect what the actions of council was. It provides no guidance whatsoever if it doesn't go further addressed.
And B?
As noted, sir, there's two versions of the area to amend the comprehensive plan with. One includes B, one does not.
What's the advantage? I mean, as I recall, some of the areas in B were contested. What would be the advantages or disadvantages of including B or leaving B out?
So in the discussion, and this is in the plan, B is growth area B is 230, I believe it's 237 acres of current farmland and undeveloped land, some of which is very flat. There is an absence, not an absence, there are several significant streams that flow to 7 Mile Creek, which is a tributary to the Upper Eno water supply. But there are not streams threaded throughout the property. There are, as I said before, certain flat areas, and it has close proximity to West 10 Road and the Buckhorn Road interchange. And so that was the rationale for recommending it as a growth area. What you also find in the Buckhorn area plan is essentially a cut sheet that goes into detail about why this shows up as a growth area and not a teal priority area, is that it does not currently have a driveway on West 10 Road or Bushy Cook Road, and it does not currently have immediate access to utilities. So further development would need to occur for it to become a immediately actionable property. And that really is the intention of those growth areas, is to provide guidance to the city, the county, and possibly the state of any further investments they may want to make those properties more developable, whether it's road access, rail access, or utility access.
So utilities aren't currently available. The land was contested.
Mm-hmm.
The city would not be restricted from considering or looking at a developer that came along and said they wanted to buy that area, similar to what Headline did when they looked at the property that was not in a growth area plan currently. I guess I'm wondering what's the advantage. What would be the advantage to the city of approving it when we had people contesting it because they consider it traditional farmland and traditional residential land?
So the advantage is that staff can make a recommendation about whether it is or is not consistent with the adopted plans. As presented in the Buckhorn area plan, economic development of that property would be consistent. Otherwise, similar to the Medline South, a request that you all approved last year, staff cannot make a recommendation whatsoever. We're not recommending denial, but we can't recommend that the rezoning be granted because it's outside the boundaries of our comprehensive plan.
Well, I don't want this to sound rude or direct, but I don't know how important it is for us when we're evaluating a piece of property. I don't know how important it is for us to hear whether staff believes it's currently in line with any plans or not. We can sort of figure that out ourselves. I think the only advice we need from staff occasionally on a situation like this is it legal? Can we do it? I think Medline's a good example. You obviously couldn't make a recommendation, as I recall, when we adopted the Medline or approved the Medline project. We did that based on the presentation from the developer, the presentation from state individuals, and the presentation from our managers and lawyers that this was or wasn't a financial benefit to the city. And I don't mean to say that the plan advice or guidance from the planning department is not helpful and necessary. I guess I'm saying that not having that doesn't preclude us from considering a piece of property if something comes along for development, rather than taking the step forward included in growth plan that people interpret as them not having the ability to present before government that they elected and put in place, like the people of Orange County did. So I don't know everybody else's opinion. I would prefer the map without the growth area B.
I would support. Go ahead.
Sorry, Sean. For those reasons.
I'm also curious about the baseball diamond and everything that was discussed with the residents. The donated land going to be actually baseball complex, if I remember right. That's going to be south of Gravelly Hill. There are just some updates on here that I'm missing. I'm with Tim. I'm just not. I don't feel comfortable including Part B, Section B.
Having said that, 6 months down the road, after Orange County has reviewed this and taken proper public input from people who voted them in, and then, it may be that B comes back to us, maybe even C or D in varied forms, or maybe not. I just am uncomfortable stepping out there when it doesn't really limit us from developing or from someone developing the property if a suitable, approved, and judged project comes along.
So to your point, Mr. Bradley, the reason I've been quiet is I have nothing to you're 100% correct. But should that, in that event, similar with Medline South, the applicants would still come to the planning department. We would still make them familiar with our unified development ordinance and any adopted plans, all of our standards. And I think the discussion and some of the standards with regard to landscaping and lighting, for example, that were present at the December 7th meeting would be pertinent to that discussion and would be presented at that time. Again, that would also have to go to public hearing, and we would notify the neighbors and the public at large as required by state law and by our unified development ordinance. So there would be further opportunity should that occur for public input in the city of Mebane. You're absolutely right. And anything that would come before you would meet our standards, and the developer would be well informed of those and need to speak to those.
Well, and along those lines, it makes me question why the inclusion of focus area A, honestly. And if I recall correctly, I asked about it at the last meeting, and I think someone noted that there hadn't been any public concern expressed about including focus area A, which is different from those property owners giving us a nod saying we want to be included. So I don't know if maybe you could clarify why we're leaving focus area A in, if it follows the same logic as all of the other focus areas.
That's a great point, Ms. Auditory. And we actually we had interest from one property owner in response to receiving a mailing to be included in focus area A. They were adjacent to it. They also own several properties within focus area A. And prior to this when we were doing the preliminary work for this project, one of the property owners within focus area A expressed an interest in being included at that time. We don't have documentation of that. We did have a meeting. Mr. Rollins, City Engineer Franz Holt, and myself met with that property owner, and they are very interested in working with the city to develop that area. So we have had stated interest in being included and having access to city utilities for economic development purposes.
So my understanding that the difference between the two to me would be A has utilities currently available, B does not.
Yes, the number one obstacle for A is road frontage and rail access. Right now, they don't have a good driveway to A. Yes, sir.
But the sewer line we took to Eflin went right through it.
Yes, sir.
That would be the difference to me, Jill. I don't know. That's why I didn't suggest removing B, was because it does have utilities. B does not currently have utilities.
Mr. Stover, I could not find in the slide deck the slide that showed that area perfectly. My memory was most of area A is already shaded purple and within our plan. There was a limited number of properties north of the way station on that side of the road that were not included in the plan and already shaded purple. So we were adding in a couple of those properties there. And then we had a request from a property owner to add in some properties along Mattress Factory. So most of A was within the current comprehensive land development plan, but there was an addition of properties north of the way station.
Christian, people who might be joining the Zoom, will you explain the significance of the purple?
The purple is the area that's currently within our adopted plan. And Mr. Rollins is correct. I believe there are 4 properties outside of that area. Yeah, if you go to the final slide, Chris, it's actually on there. You can't see it great, but you can see it on that final slide.
A is the adopted plan and B is not. Is that correct?
Over half of A is in the adopted plan currently. But you are correct. None of B is.
Okay.
Let's go further. B, C, D, and E are not. Only part of A is.
Thanks, y'all. That explanation of section A was helpful. Thank you for indulging me.
All right. Any further questions?
So,
it is a public hearing. So Stephanie, are there anybody?
Yes, sir. Kirk is going to bring the first speaker in. And that's going to be Miss Beth Bronson. Beth, are you there?
I am. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hey, if you hear my dog breathing heavily, I do apologize. But I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you guys very much for having this opening public hearing. And thanks for all of the transparency and all of the communication. And again, thanks for all the work and thoughtfulness being put into what I understand is a technical stuff. I understand that this is for future development, future land use. We do very much understand, I personally, and a lot of people that I've talked with, we do understand that this is not a rezoning effort. This is not an annexation effort. This is a plan to proceed with how do we address annexation proposals? How do we address, commercial development? This area has been identified as a commercial industrial transition activity node. That is a mouthful, but it is something that's been identified since the UDO was put in place. It's been something that was identified, sometime after the Mebane small area plan or the Mebane Eflin small area plan, but before the 2012, utilities agreement. And so my concern as a resident within this area and bordering this, transition node, industrial node is what I'll call it, is that there hasn't been a lot of transparency from, and again, the county that we were residing in, but also, just the way that it's been marketed in general. So I would say that is that, moving forward, as we talk about this Buckhorn area plan, let's not pretend that it will stay, rural residential if this plan is adopted, and if, as development increases, right? This is basically a template to developers in the commercial industry to create, a template for how they would apply for these land purchases, these parcel purchases. And I absolutely agree that, landowners should have the right to do this, and they should have a template to follow. I think it's really important, and I think that Cy has worked insanely hard to put this, in a digestible format. One for the citizens and two for the council members. So again, a serious thanks to Cy for the way that he has kind of approached this and presented this to the public, but also to y'all. I wanted to request that, as we look at this Buckhorn area plan and we look at this technical study, we make sure to set the precedent now. What is going to be expected of these developers? What is going to be expected, for land conservation, for NCDOT involvement, for road maintenance? These things are all very important and should be part of the technical study. There's just not a lot of information on the traffic. There's not a lot of information on the impact on the roadways. There are a lot of, again, I said this last month, there are a lot of plans that address this area, but nothing cohesive. And I think that unfortunately, this Buckhorn area plan does not contribute to consolidating those plans in any way, and it should. I think it could be more expansive in the way it addresses how we address changing these rural roads to industrial roads. How do we address protecting this middle school that had potential previously for an elementary school, high school, and no longer does, because this is supposed to be now industrial areas. I guess I would just, I will follow up with kind of specific tenants, I think, in writing. I guess, what I mean when I say accountability to incoming developers, but the sense of like cost sharing rather than having tax incentives. I think that something in the technical study should include, we are not putting this in place in order to give tax incentives to developers that come into town. This is a highly desirable area that, as Cy, but also as Craig Benedict has pointed out very sparingly, has been this area has been targeted for a long time, and I don't think that we should be advertising, a bunch of tax incentives when we really need tax money. We need state involvement. We need public-private partnership so that we can maintain these roadways, so that we can responsibly develop in this area. And I guess I have 3 other quick points. I would like to see the UDO updated before something like, this technical study takes place, or for whatever happens after this technical study. I mean, this is where I am no longer an expert, but, it seems like we're talking about the Buckhorn area plan makes comprehensive changes to Mebane by design, to the Universal Development Ordinance, to comprehensive land development and future use plans, both for Mebane, but also for Orange County. And I think that those plans need to be amended and addressed so that the Buckhorn area plan can, be written in a way that, follows those plans versus the Buckhorn area plan driving the changes to those ordinances and judicial, I'm very much at a lack of words and vocabulary for it, but it seems like, again, this was brought up back in November, but it does seem a little backwards in the way that it's being done, and clarification on that point, is all the better, especially as it's written into the Buckhorn area plan. My other request would be that the PTRC maintains a accurate website. They still have the December 2nd draft plan up on their website, whereas based off of the December 7th council meeting and then the Orange County Council meeting on the 15th, when we removed, areas, or when they removed areas C, D, and E, and B potentially, leaving just growth area A identified, that has not been reflected in their website. And I understand that there's no longer open for public comment, but I do feel that, as the ones running this technical study, they should be keeping that website up to date. So that would just be a recommendation that you could relay to them, please. And again,
Well, thank you.
You're welcome very much. Yeah, I don't want to go over. The last thing I do want to point out is that the Bowman Road development has completely trashed that road very much. I mean, there are massive potholes. There are, a lot of problems there that are not being addressed, and they're not going to be maintained during development. They're going to be addressed after development, but that affects us, in our daily lives and our quality of lives. And I'm worried that that's going to happen with this Buckhorn area plan if road maintenance and, accurate, responsible development is not included in this plan. So, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Hooks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bronson. Stephanie, do we have anybody else?
Yes, we have Fiona Johnson, I think, or Johanna. Yeah, there she is.
Hello, everyone. I will not repeat everything Beth said, but I will be in agreement with her on thank you for all the work you've been doing, and I hope you all have wonderful holidays. I just wanted to point out again that I understand, just like Beth said, that the Buckhorn area plan isn't rezoning anything, but I do think it serves as an advertisement to any warehouse developer that Mebane's the place to come. We're ready for you. Here's your checklist. My problem really comes in that the Buckhorn area plan is recommendations versus requirements. So there's like a ton of great lists of things everyone has to do, or should do, like 100-foot buffer, but it's not a requirement as far as I understand, which kind of, as a landowner in the area, is upsetting to me. If we're going to put something like this together, we might as well have some actual requirements versus recommendations. And it also extends the areas, and specifically 6016 West 10 Road, that's outside of the 2030 development plan. I've said it before, I bought the property I'm on because I looked at that 2030 plan for Orange County and I was okay with that, but it's creeping closer and closer. And like I said, I feel like the Buckhorn area plan just serves as an advertisement to do more of that. So that's all I have to say on that. And thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you. Stephanie, anybody else?
No, sir.
Tricia Rhodes.
I'm sorry.
Tricia Rhodes.
Oh, she's on the next one. Yes, Mayor, that's all. She's for the audit.
All right, does council have any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, I hope both these people will address their concerns to the Orange County commissioners when they have the opportunity.
I'd also like to thank SI and staff for the effort they put forward in advertising and making this transparent. Apparently, that's been recognized by citizens, and also, SI, I'd be interested in being told when this may come before Orange County. If you get word that they're having a hearing, whether it's Zoom or online, I'd like to listen in.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate the compliment. We have worked very hard on this, and I will absolutely keep the city manager and all council members, and I think planning board has expressed a similar interest based on the public feedback, so that they can view, if not participate in that public meeting or public hearing.
Thank you, Si.
Okay.
I would just like to clarify something too. The last speaker mentioned, and you also mentioned earlier, Si, the fact that if this is accepted for guidance, it is a recommendation, not a list of requirements. And so with respect to something like the 100-foot buffer, I know that you stated that we can't require it, we can't deny a project because it doesn't have that, even if it's a recommendation. So is there a way to integrate that piece so that it is a requirement? or any other pieces that we might find we want to integrate as requirements, not recommendations.
Conditions.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yes. So I'll be bringing an information item to you, I believe, at the February meeting, discussing the opportunity to amend the Unified Development Ordinance in tandem with the required statutorily required amendments of 160D that Mr. Brown is working on. We have the sign article as the known need to be amended. And then, some of these buffers and setbacks, some of our design standards need to be revisited as well. On the opposite end of things, we have a pretty onerous minimum lot width requirement for some of our residential lots of 85 feet, which is certainly not current with planning, with the best thinking out there in planning, that we'd like to revisit with you all as well. So there's more protections we can introduce, and also more flexibility we can introduce for some of our other uses. So we're going to bring that as an information item, just seeking guidance from council, and presenting to you probably a list of topics we want to discuss, and landscaping buffers will certainly be in there.
Great, thank you.
We did get a
One more question. Beside that, if a project comes along and they request annexation like Medline, then the requirements in our development ordinance come into play, such as buffers, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, it really would depend on whether it's developed outside of our jurisdiction or inside of our jurisdiction. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And currently our ordinance does not require 100-foot buffers, which I think was the concern stated before.
All right, any further comments?
Mr. Mayor, can I make one comment?
Yes, sir.
We did receive a question on the chat about, will the Mebane City Council be approving the Buckhorn area plan before the Orange County Commissioners review it? And the answer to that is they will not. We've asked them to take the recommendations as guidance on the areas that are being amended in this comprehensive land plan, which was the map we were showing earlier. The council has not been asked to adopt the Buckhorn area plan until after the Orange County Commissioners have comment, which could cause the entire plan to drastically change.
And we will take that vote on Wednesday, not this evening.
So that's right, because this is part of a public hearing. The council's vote will be on Wednesday about amending the comprehensive land plan, Mebane by design.
So we'll be approving the areas we discussed. We just won't be approving what is called the Buckhorn area plan.
That is correct.
All right, Lawson, we need a motion to adjourn the public hearing, do we not?
No, sir, because you've got to receive additional, yes, to adjourn to Wednesday evening. That would be correct.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, roll call. Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Ewing,
Aye.
Mr. Bradley,
Aye.
Ms. Alatorre.
Aye.
All right, motion carries to continue or close the public hearing. All right, that's all the public hearings tonight. We're moving to the 2019-20 financial statement and audit. Ms. Tate. Is Jeannie on it? There you go.
So at the December council meeting, we did a preliminary review of our financial statements, At that point in time, we had submitted them to the state but had not received their approval. But we have since received their approval of our financial statements. Nothing that you heard from me then has changed. There's nothing that I'm going to present tonight, but I'll let Patricia Rhodes speak to you about the audit. So I'd like to introduce Patricia Rhodes of Stout, Stewart, McGowan and King, our audit team.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you to the council for allowing me to join you tonight to discuss the audit for June 30th, 2020, and also giving Stout, Stewart, McGowan and King the opportunity to be the independent auditor for the city. Mebane has prepared the comprehensive annual financial report for June 30th, 2020, which we have audited. The CAFR is prepared by the City of Mebane's Finance Department, and this is the 10th consecutive CAFR that has been prepared. There are 3 letters contained in the CAFR that are actually Stout, Stewart, McGowan and King's. The Independent Auditor's Report, which is found on page 1, and the Report on Internal Control over Financial Reporting, and the Report on Compliance with Requirements of Major State Programs found in the Compliance section, beginning on page 111 of the report. Our Independent Auditor's Report and the other reports are addressed to the mayor and the council because as auditors, we work for the council. We work with city staff on the audit. Our Independent Auditor's Report states that the preparation of the financial statements is the responsibility of management. The expression of an opinion on the financial statements based on the audit is the responsibility of the auditor. The financial statements were prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and the audit was performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. We are rendering an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is the best and cleanest opinion that can be received. An audit is a consideration of the system used to capture financial data. It is also a consideration of internal controls, and in certain cases, we perform tests on those controls. With our audit completed, we can obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. Our report on internal control over financial reporting and our report on compliance with requirements of major state programs were required because of the amount of state grant money that was expended during the year during June 30th, 2020 from the Powell Bill funds and the 1NC funds. Nothing came to our attention during our audit as a material weakness or significant deficiency in internal control that we are required to report to you. We are also required by professional standards to communicate to you, as those charged with governance, certain details about our audit. With the exception of the challenges posed by COVID-19, we had no problems performing our audit, no disagreements with management during our audit, and all known adjustments were made. The next slide shows Mebane's unassigned fund balance in the general fund. That's compared with similar municipalities that are near major metropolitan areas, have water and sewer systems, and are comparable in size. The City of Mebane's percentage of general fund unassigned fund balance to expenditures for June 30th, 2020 is 57.32%. which is a decrease from the previous year of 63.30%. But it's also worthy to note that the state average for this percentage for most municipalities is 46%. The City of Mebane is still in strong financial position. They have low direct debt, and all this is due to sound management practices. Does anyone have any questions for me? Again, I'd like to thank the council for allowing us to continue to be the audit firm for the city And I'd like to thank David, Chris, Jeannie, and all the city staff for their cooperation during our audit.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
Does the council have any questions of Jeannie? If not, need a motion to accept the report.
Make a motion to accept the report, the financial report.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Roll call. Ms. Alatorre,
Aye.
Mr. Bradley,
Aye.
Mr. Ewing,
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, moving to item number 7, our party wall agreement, 104 South 4th Street. Mr. Brown.
Unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Mayor, members of the council, this is a building that's being rehabilitated. There are plans at the city inspections department that are being reviewed and re-reviewed to make sure this project can go forward. There is an existing electric utility box on the north side of the wall that is common to, and there's a photograph of the same. That wall is actually on the fire department building, but it is a common wall to the building that fronts on 4th Street that's being rehabilitated. City staff has looked at this and found that it is in the best interest of the city to allow this agreement to move forward to allow electrification, new electrification of this particular building. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have, but it's straightforward. Includes an indemnification with a certificate of insurance as to the other property owner.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Brown?
Lawson, this easement will give the property owner access to that meter base, right? And I mean, that's why it's a 10 by 10 piece of land that we're granting, not just something much smaller.
That is correct.
Right. And it doesn't have, like, if we approve this agreement and easement, that's an approval of that only and not other future plans submitted to inspections and planning. That's a separate thing.
Would not include anything other than what is addressed in the agreement, which is finite as to the electric. Would not include any roofing or window or other issues at all. It only deals with the electrical panels.
Thank you.
This is just out of curiosity. When you have a common wall like that, how do you determine whose wall it is?
Generally by survey, but my understanding is on this particular one, Mr. Bradley, that we have built a wall that abuts their wall. So if it was actually surveyed, the property line should be in between the two walls that have been constructed.
Oh, so there is an inner wall on the other side.
That's my understanding.
I was just curious.
Yeah, at some point, the city put erected that wall against the old car dealership building.
Well, it gets the power boxes off the street.
Yes, sir.
Street, yeah.
All right. Any further questions? All right. Need a motion.
I'll make a motion. We approve the easement.
We have a motion to approve the deed of easement and the agreement. Do we have a second? Got a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Roll call. Ms. Alatorre,
Aye.
Mr. Bradley,
Aye.
Mr. Ewing,
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
There you go. Emphatic. That motion carries. Thank you.
Are you sending us a message?
Do what?
You got writing on the back of your paper.
Yeah, that's my never mind. We're moving to the Lake Michael Spillway Study, proposal for engineering services. Franz Holt. Unmute, Fran.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Staff is asking you to consider a proposal from Schnabel Engineering for further evaluation of the Lake Michael Dam. This proposal, which follows a condition assessment that they completed in October, includes several recommendations, most impactful being replacement of the concrete spillway. After we received that assessment, Chris, Aaron, and I met with Schnabel to review it and to identify the next steps that need to be taken, which are included in the proposal. And one being the further investigation of the intake tower that sits out in the lake, the low-level dam drain that goes under the dam and can drain the lake, and the subsurface condition of the spillway. They've done some preliminary what they can do from the surface, but they feel from previous review and their last inspection that additional review needs to be done there. They're also going to update the emergency action plan, which is a requirement from the dam safety folks with NCDEQ, and to provide a dam breach inundation map, which will identify area that would be underwater should the dam be breached. They will also provide an alternative analysis of a new spillway. They've listed a couple of options in their proposal and will provide construction costs related to that replacement. We also asked them to look into any possible funding for the city, and they've agreed to do that and have a cost associated with that in their proposal. I did ask that Corey Shaw and Mark Landis with Schnabel join us tonight. They are the experts. They can help answer any questions that you may have regarding their initial findings or their current proposal. And I believe they're both are ready to be elevated if needed.
Ronce, the dam itself needs some serious attention, doesn't it?
The actual dam is in pretty good condition, the earthen dam. It's the concrete spillway that is of the biggest concern. The dam length is over 500 feet.
Right.
The spillway section, concrete spillway, is about 70 feet. I think when David and Chris identified this early on in the budget process from last year, that we were going to need to do something, it followed an inspection report from the 2019 inspection report from North Carolina Dam Safety, which also identified some of these findings. Schnabel's report went into much greater detail of what they saw out there.
Okay.
We're happy to give you a rundown if you'd like us to do that.
I don't need it.
Okay.
So what you're saying, Franz, is that the attention is going to be given to the spillway and maybe the 5 drainage gates underneath. They're going to drill to get accurate readings on what exactly, if there's any holes or erosion underneath. And then they're going to advise us best they can what it's going to cost us to fix the spillway.
That's correct. They also have included other recommendations, and we've tried to do a full analysis, Mr. Bradley, just to make sure while we're there, we're covering everything.
Well, I noticed in the report they were going to give us, there would need to be provisions for taking the lake level down when they redo the spillway. Doesn't that already exist with the 5 gates that we have now, the ability to take it down?
They want to know what the condition is. There is actual drain to the dam.
Yeah.
But they want to look at everything, every aspect of it. And like I said, they've got the dam, the design of the dam, of the tower, intake tower, of the low level drain. And I'm happy for them to speak to why we need to do more than we have done or are able to do with what's out there now. I will say that we did install a siphon, a 12-inch siphon, to help them do their preliminary assessment. And they want us to operate that again when they come out again.
Yes, part of the investigation will be a dive inspection where we'll try to activate some of these gates to see if they're functional. And but we want to make sure that when we do it, we don't do it in a manner that we open a gate and then we can't close it, because then we drain the lake.
As Franz mentioned, the siphon, that's the big white pipe you see on the side of the spillway over there if you drove out there. So we can use that to lower the lake level when needed for them to do further evaluation.
I remember when Mill Creek was under construction, we drained some water from the lake to help to provide Mill Creek with some water for irrigation. That was years ago, but I didn't realize there were 5 gates under it. That's interesting. So we would need to repair it to the point where we had the ability to take the lake down, but not necessarily to the ability to have 5 drains where we'd feed like a water system that we had when that was our water supply.
Well, that's exactly right. Those gates are related to the intake tower and the pump station that was there. Yeah. There's also a drain that goes under the dam, a low level drain, and they want to investigate that as well.
All right. Any further questions?
Franz, what's the timetable for this, time-wise?
I think they've got 17 weeks in their proposal.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll have a full report that we can share with council. And it'll list the next steps of what needs to be done and timeframes and related costs.
Okay.
I think I read in the report mention that that Lake Michael is a secondary water source, and I'm just curious if that comes into play with the repairs at all. Like, does it have to be treated differently because it's a potential water supply?
No, it's whether it's recreation or water supply, it really doesn't matter. Dam safety looks at it with respect to the hazard. So it's just we provide a designation for the use of the reservoir.
All right.
Make a motion, we approve the engineering study.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, roll call. Mr. Green.
Aye.
Mr. Ewing.
Aye.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Mrs. Auditore.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Franz.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
All right, we're moving to the facilities assessment and capital plan update. And I believe we have Rachel Nielsen. Yep. Good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So I can't turn my video on, but that's okay because I'm going to share my screen here. Thank you very much for having us. My name is Rachel Nilsson, and I am an architect with CPL. I have a couple of colleagues on the line as well, Jennifer Turner and Bill Moser. And if there are any questions later, we can bring them on. I'm here tonight to give you an update to the comprehensive facilities plan that we've been working on with the city of Mebane over the last couple of months. Just as a brief overview of this plan, we are looking at department needs and facility needs over the next 15 years for the city of Mebane, putting together capital planning reports, cost estimates, so that you all have a plan to move forward with over that next 15 years. Just to give you an update on the schedule, we are right on track. We are going through the analysis phase of this project right now. We've done all of the assessments, and I'll get a little bit more into what that means in this presentation. And we are planning to have that final presentation for you in February. As I mentioned, one of the things that we're looking at in Mebane is the building assessments. What we've done through these building assessments is we have done 3D scans on half of your facilities, and for the facilities that do not have current floor plans, so that you all now have current floor plans for those facilities in a schematic format. We've made notes in those floor plans, in those 3D plans, on anything that we found that may be a code issue, maybe a maintenance issue, maybe things for us to look at in terms of adding to that capital plan. We've also put together a list of all of the major items in each building and given those a rating, so you have a general idea of which facilities may need more work or less work over the next decade. We've looked at where each department goes within that building, and we're looking currently at what the inefficiencies are in some of those floor plans, where we can capture additional space or additional staff, and for growth that occurs in the city in the next decade and has been occurring. With the departments, each department in the city was given a departmental survey, a pretty comprehensive survey going through all of their current space needs, future space needs, what their growth projections are in 3-year increments over the next 15 years. So we understand any additional staff that may be needed, spaces for staff that are needed, and the types of space that is needed. We've done a very in-depth analysis specifically within fire and police to look at, and what you see is a draft example of, or a draft of that fire report, fire analysis report. The fire one was done by Greg Grayson and his team at North Carolina Fire Chief Consulting, and the police one was done by Don Wurzberger with 720 Design. And those again go through facility needs, facility deficiencies as those two departments grow. We've done an interview with each department to discuss space needs, department needs, adjacencies, and growth projections. Our deliverable for this project is we'll be putting together this dashboard. It'll allow the team to search by city building, to search by department, and to look at some of this comprehensive citywide analysis. It'll be a way that organizes all of the information that we've gathered in a digital format, easy to use, and consolidates everything, again, to be easy to find. This is just a snapshot of what we're working on now as we wrap up some of the, putting together some of the cost estimating for the assessment piece, looking at the analysis piece, looking at the really big growth items that are happening within the next 10 to 15 years and how that affects some of these buildings and how it affects some of the departments in a much larger sense. I'd like to open it up for questions. I can go through anything in further detail as you'd like.
Anybody had any?
Chris, she said this would be available, and I think on the chart I saw 217. Will we have a special meeting for this, or how will we handle this?
So it's going to be part of the budget meetings that we have.
Okay.
Chris, can we get hard copies of this before the presentation, the report?
We'll be glad to get you some draft copies of it before the report's finalized and presented to you.
Well, you know, this is a lot to look at on slides without having an opportunity to review it before.
I'm with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
So this is not a final analysis. There will be a more comprehensive report.
Yes, before the report is finalized, they, as part of the original agreement, they were going to do a presentation to council just on where we are at this time, just to make sure there wasn't something we were missing or just completely going down a trail that council disagreed with. So this is just an update to the ongoing project.
Good.
That's great.
Okay, well, thank you very much. If there are any other questions.
And I believe Chris has a copy of this presentation as well, if you want to share it.
I'll be glad to share that with you.
Moving on to number 10, Cross Connection Control Ordinance. And we have Mr. Kyle Smith available.
There we go.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I believe what you have in your packet is our proposed cross connection control ordinance. The purpose of this ordinance is to protect our distribution system from contamination, whether that be due to back siphoning or any type of injection just coming from the consumer side, getting into our distribution center system. Majority of the items in this ordinance are things that the city and a lot of the consumers out there are already doing. It's just this ordinance would give us authority to enforce any items we need to as part of this ordinance. This is based on a model ordinance. Many other municipalities around the state and actually across the country have something similar in place. It gives us I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. There's a couple main items in the ordinance that we have. The first one would be it would require annual testing. Those testing of backflow preventers. Those testing reports will be submitted to us. The state requires us to maintain records of those testings for any backflow devices in our system for a minimum of 4 years. And the other thing would be if we find any consumer that has a high potential of cross connection contamination, we can require them to install a type of backflow preventer that we deem necessary on their side. once this ordinance is in place, we would then go and send letters out to any consumers that have not been submitting backflow reports to us. That way we can go ahead and start getting those in place and start maintaining those records. And the downside will be all the owners of these devices would be required to be paying for those testing. But a lot of consumers are already doing that anyway. We're trying to catch up and get some of those that aren't out there actually providing us the testing reports.
Kyle, we have a mechanism in place where failure to do this, they're fined.
There's different things we can do. We can terminate, cut their water off until they get something fixed. We can fine them. There's different levels depending on the severity of the issue.
Now we're putting backflow, the consumers we're requiring them on what, irrigation systems?
Yes, sir.
But not regular water and sewer lines.
No, sir. Our current meter setters that we have in place have backflow preventers in those for just regular water services.
Okay.
And we're actually in the process of upgrading those ourselves. Any we find that do not have backflow devices on the setters, the city is actually going in and replacing those.
So this could also impact anyone that's got a sprinkler system.
It could, yes, sir.
So if you find someone that's got a sprinkler system that may have been built before NFPA 13 required it, so would you require them to go in and put a backflow valve on their
yes, sir,
fire department connection? Yes,
sir.
Wow, that's going to catch some people by surprise.
It will, but right now that's the way the state law is written. They're required to have that by state law.
Any idea how many we may run across?
Unaccounted for, I don't know yet. I've got a running list now. I'm up to over 350 backflow preventers in the city.
I mean, if you owned a downtown store, for example, that had an old sprinkler system and it didn't have a backflow valve, you could be looking at a significant amount of money to put a backflow valve, protection valve in, right? I mean, that could.
It would depend on the type of backflow preventer used. It could be one that's installed internal where they basically just cut the line loose and put one in, put a drain.
Pretty much all of these devices, Kyle, years ago were in a vault in the front yard.
Correct.
Today, mostly, I don't know that any of them really go in a vault in the front yard. So in the situation Councilman Bradley's talking about, you probably would be, your only real hope is to put it in a riser in the building.
Yes. And that's been done. It's not impossible.
You say there's 350?
That's what the current count is. It's probably going up. I'm still doing an inventory of everything in our system. I have not completed the inventory yet.
So there won't be any grandfathering in or anything along that line. Similar to what Tim was talking about. It's just
no
kickoff.
Yes, sir.
And what was the genesis of this ordinance? Was this just advised from state or bad actors around town?
No, it was state. They revised their rules for distribution systems effective January 1, 2020, where we were required to start an inventory of everything in the system. Any system that contains more than, I think it's 5 backflow devices, you have to comply with their rules.
I think it's necessary. I mean, if you don't have a backflow, anything that's in the sprinkler system or irrigation system or whatever is subject to flow right back into our water system, including nitrogen, fertilizer, et cetera, et cetera. My only concern would be there could on occasion be a situation where someone doesn't have a backflow on their sprinkler system that would be a significant financial obligation to put one in. And then in those instances, well, hopefully they'll be rare. I guess we need to figure out some way to do it in a compassionate way where we give them spread it over time.
Yeah.
You know, the city says, I mean, you could be talking about tearing up a sidewalk. I know some of the risers, you know, don't have a valve below the slip valve, and so you're either going to cut a 6-inch pipe or you're going to have to put it out front under the sidewalk. So I just want to make sure that we're probably going to catch some people by surprise, but when we do, that we do it in a way that, you know, we work with them to get it resolved to the extent of the law and not, you know, say, yeah, I know you're out $25,000, but tough
Yeah.
stuff.
Do you know if there are any grants available, Kyle, from the state, anything along that line?
Not aware of any grants available for this.
I would add, this conversation has probably been going on at the state and national level for the last 10 years. The state's been talking about implementing this over and over again. It is rules basically coming down from the EPA. Then the state folks that certify all of our operators and our system have clearly now put it in a law and are mandating that this be done. So, I mean, we will keep our ears open if there is a situation where somebody is in just a bad situation, where it's just, there's no way they can afford to do it. We'll have conversation with them and could potentially come back to council to discuss it. But hopefully it'll work out well. But
I will add, it is getting real. I mean, we had a distribution system inspection back in October, and that is one of the things that they were really keying in on is a backflow program. You know, we are doing what we can with what we have, but they know that there's more out there. I mean, I have inspection reports from a lot of places in Mebane, but I know for a fact I do not have all of them.
350 you have, will we notify them or have you notified them?
There will be letters going out once we get a complete inventory in. And some of those we already are receiving reports on. And if we already have those reports, they'll be logged in and they won't get a letter this coming year because they've already provided reports.
Okay.
Kyle, there is a form for a contractor to go out and certify that backflow preventer, isn't there?
Yes, sir.
And you'll provide that. When you send the letter out, will you also provide a list of acceptable contractors who can perform this test?
We will provide a list of acceptable certifications. Any contractor who is certified by Rural Water or like the city of Raleigh, they do their own certification. City of Durham does their own certifications. We'll accept those. I'm planning on setting up a website that's dedicated just to backflow that lists out everything individually, but I wanted to get this ordinance in place and get everything accounted for and then start moving forward with the notifications.
Thank you, sir.
All right, any other questions with Kyle? If not, we need a motion to adopt.
I make a motion, we adopt the backflow policy as written with the understanding that if situations arise, we'll work with whoever we can to get it resolved to the requirement.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, roll call. Mr. Green.
Aye.
Mr. Ewing.
Aye.
Mr. Brad.
Aye.
Ms. Alatorre.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, moving on to number 11, Racial Equity Advisory Committee application. Mr. Brown.
Mayor, members of the council, as we discussed last council meeting, you wanted to have an application form for citizens to apply for this committee. with the goal of then reviewing those and making committee selections. So Tracy Davenport and I have worked on this application, and we submitted as a starting point for the application. And that is pretty well simply stated what you have before you.
All right, any questions or comments?
Do you guys have a recommended date for acceptance of the applications? I noticed there were that was sort of left blank. Are we looking at having the applications returned April 1st, May 1st?
Right.
Any recommendations?
Before we get that, there's been some discussions. We approved the the ordinance last month, and I think the language in it was like three. There were 7 members, and 3 of which lived in the city, and the other 4 were outside the city in their ETJ. Is that correct? Does anybody remember?
Yeah, that was included in our agenda, and I was going to comment on that as well. The ordinance that we adopted last month left it a little unclear under the membership and appointment section that the committee shall be comprised of 7 members appointed by council. At least 3 members must be residents of the city. 3 or more shall live outside of the city, and then it says ETJ in parentheses with question marks, and then a 7th member at large. And so I feel like that needs some clarification. And I would offer that any members of the committee should reside either in the ETJ or within 1 mile of the city limits, because I know our ETJ is a little wonky in places where it's not precisely a mile outside of the city limits. And I would also maybe suggest that we eliminate the requirement that 3 live outside the ETJ, but keep the requirement that 3 must reside within the city limits. I would be okay with having 4 or 5 or maybe 6, I don't know, live within the city limits, because that's a much larger pool of people that I would imagine we'd be pulling from in the first place.
So how large would you want the committee to be then? 6?
Will still remain 7,
Okay.
but just eliminate the requirement that 3 be from the 3 could still be from the ETJ or the mile that I'm proposing outside the city limits, but just eliminate the requirement that 3 be from that area.
How do we mandate and check ourselves for folks that do live outside of city limits, White Level, Buckhorn?
I think that's why we're talking about the 1 mile, because some of our ETJ might be 500 feet from our city limits, and the other one may be a mile. So one of the ideas, is that not correct, Chris?
There are areas where, a good example would be along Hillsborough Road, where one side of the road is in the ETJ and the other side of the road is not. So Ms. Auditori was saying, instead of just saying ETJ, it would be ETJ or within 1 mile of the contiguous city limits.
And I'm glad you said contiguous. Yeah. And I think, to speak to your point, Sean, I think that we make sure we have good representation simply by taking that into consideration with the appointments that we make. I would certainly not want a committee made up entirely of people from a small area of town. I would like a diverse representation. So I would take that into consideration when making appointments to the committee.
Well, also, can we amend our ordinance without a public hearing from last month
Yes, yes, you can. And whatever your wishes are, but you certainly can amend the ordinance without holding a public hearing. It's not an item that requires public hearing.
One thing that came out after further consideration is more people that are, I think it said 3 from within the city limit. I think we have a bigger group from the city limits, and then some from the outside, ETJ and the 1 mile thing. I think would be a better mix of citizens that are involved in this process. So that was just my suggestion.
Ed, are you saying 3 in the city, 3 ETJ plus minus 1 mile, and then 1 at large? Or
maybe 4 or 5 in the city and two or 3 or whatever the number, however the addition is, outside the city in our ETJ and thing. It may not be a big point at all. After we see the applications, we can make a determination there. But the minimum would be 3, correct?
3 in the city.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
I like
it now.
Yeah, I like Jill's recommendation that we have 7 members, a minimum of which 3 shall be from the city limits. It could actually be 5 or 6 once you appoint them, but
Okay.
you can never.
Yeah. We're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And we don't have to amend that, Lawson, or just make
Yes,
that?
I think if we need a motion that the composition be 7 members, a minimum of 3 from the city, and then the remainder could be either from the city or in the ETJ or within 1 mile of the contiguous city limits.
Right.
That
All
sounds perfect. At least that's what I was trying to communicate and what I like. And
All right, let's move on that first. Do
Okay.
we have a motion?
so moved as Lawson just presented.
Whatever Lawson said. All right, we have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Roll call. Ms. Auditori.
Aye.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Mr. Ewing.
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, let's move to the dates. Application should be received by.
We allow 30 days advertising.
I think I would defer to Chris on what's realistic to get the word out, both on the city's website and any other means that you may want to use.
My mind goes to having enough time to pull it together, get it on our Facebook account and our webpage account, giving people time to respond. So maybe respond in by the end of maybe the 10th of February to try to have those before you at the March council meeting.
I'd go out further than that. I'd say have them received by March 15th for consideration at the April meeting. We won't want to rush them. In fact, it may be good to maybe have them the 10th of March and give us from then until the April meeting to review and look at them.
How long were the Rex and Park advisory committee out there? How long were the bicycle and pedestrian committee requests out there? It's Chris.
I'm trying to think that Parks and Rec was approved at the November.
Aaron's online. He'll know that.
I is as well.
Leave at least 2 months.
So March 10th is.
That's correct. 2 months.
2 months. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Application should be received by March 15th,
Or March 10th.
March 10th.
I would say March 10th, and then that gives us 20 days before the April, 20 or so days. I I don't want to drag our feet on it, but I definitely don't want to rush. And want to make sure we give anybody that's interested time to consider whether they want to do it or not and apply.
The application should be screened by,
What does that mean exactly? Who's screening the applications and for what?
So my mind goes to, I was actually talking to Aaron today about the Parks and Recreation Commission. Staff's not going to review the applicants and make a recommendation to the council for appointment. What we do need a little time to do is to pull together all the applicants, put them in one document, and get all of that to the council for your review so that you've had time to review it, to then have a discussion at that April council meeting. So we would not wait until the packet goes out. Our goal would be the week after March 10th, so probably like the 18th or so, we would actually send out the list of all the applicants for council to start reviewing, to then be prepared to talk about at the April council meeting.
And that would include background, I mean, their qualifications?
So
I don't think staff would, I think the only thing we would want to do is determine whether their physical address met the criteria you just articulated. And then it's going to be discretionary with you guys, as it's discretionary with the other committees that you select members of.
So yes, we would take the applications, put them together, get it in a packet for y'all to review, and just verify addresses. And our goal would be to get that out the 18th of March.
So applications screened by March 18th and then committee members selected at the April council meeting. Was that?
okay,
And the
Everybody-
deadline for application the 10th.
Applications due on the 10th, yeah.
all right. Do we have a motion for those dates?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Roll call. Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Ewing,
Aye.
Mr. Bradley,
Aye.
Ms. Auditori.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
I would
All
just like, I would just like to interject here that you never select me first for roll call.
I do it alphabetically and reverse. I do not discriminate other than alphabetically. Okay. That's done so I don't forget anybody, by the way.
You can't spell, Tim.
Obviously, I have a short meeting. And anyway, but it's so noted, Mr. Bradley.
Just feeling a little left out, partner.
Where we are. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Extension of the COVID leave. Mrs. Hunter, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and members of
Council.
Yes, good evening. All right. So this evening, I'm presenting to you an extension of our the FFCRA leave. We would call it Mebane COVID leave to differentiate, but what it would be an extension of the federal provision for the emergency paid sick leave under the First Families Coronavirus Response Act that ended on December 31st, 2020. So the availability of this leave would encourage employees with COVID symptoms to stay home and further protect employees at work. So the maximum benefit for the Mebane COVID sick leave is 80 hours. So all employees are eligible in whole or in part if they have not exhausted the federal EPSL provision. So employees who have exhausted their 80 hours from the federal government would not receive an additional bucket of Mebane COVID leave. The EPSL balances would be carried forward and employees would use no more than 80 hours of combined emergency paid sick leave and or Mebane COVID sick leave. Approval of this leave by the council would make these benefits January 1st through June 30th of this year, 2021, only if the federal government does not pass a mandate to continue the provisions currently that just ended. So currently, we've had 35 folks use the emergency paid sick leave. $39,721.03 has been paid out, and that's reimbursable by the federal government. 8 employees have exhausted their federal benefits. If we were to approve this leave, we do have 128 eligible employees to take the leave. And that's in varying amounts. Some people have taken 1 hour, some people have taken 47 hours as an example. 101 employees have not used any emergency paid sick leave at all. And of note, 112 out of the 128 who are eligible are not eligible to telework. So there are some folks who have office positions, they would be able to telework potentially if they were not too ill to work. However, we do have a substantial part of our organization that would not be able to.
So those 8 that have exhausted their emergency sick leave,
yes,
if they were to contract COVID, or again, I don't know their situation, they would do what?
They would use their own leave.
Use their normal sick leave.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
I have a question for you. My daughter had a situation where she had to be tested. She was exposed, so she was tested. And UNC of Chapel Hill does not allow spouses to come to work for a certain period of time if their wife or significant other or whatever has been exposed. Have you all thought about that or considered that?
Yes, so we do work very closely with the health department, and we do go according to those guidelines. So if a person has a close contact, then they'd speak to me confidentially about their situation, and we do make them quarantine appropriately.
Okay, good.
All right, any other questions?
I have one, Mayor. So someone's been with the city 20 years.
Yes, sir.
They got 360 hours of sick time accumulated. They get the flu, they use their own sick time. They have symptoms with this now, they just get 80 hours that doesn't touch their 360 that they've accumulated.
Yes, that is true, provided they have not used their federal benefit, if this leave were to be approved. However, I do need to point out that, we do require documentation for employees who are not out. So a person can't just call and say, Wayne, I decided I'm not coming to work today, and that's the end of the story. We do require documentation from their health provider, the health department, indicating a need to quarantine, to be out, to have been a close contact, to have received a COVID test. So I am very apprised of what's happening with each employee and why they're out, because we do have to steward our funds appropriately.
That was my next question. So there's no way to game the system and just take a couple of weeks off because you can. There are checks and balances against. I can't call in and say, well, I think I might have been exposed by somebody at a party Friday night. I'm going to take 2 weeks off. That's got to be checked by the health department.
So there are occasions when the health department is not involved, depending on if they have a negative test. However, they do have to provide the documentation. So in terms of gaming the system, we do have the documentation in place. The unfortunate thing that might happen to that employee is that they may have, they may actually get it because they really have an exposure. Now they don't have leave. Now they have to use their own leave. So, but there are checks and balances in place. We do not allow people to be out just because, with no conversation with me and with no documentation on file.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to appear insensitive or suggest that we have people that would game the system and take advantage. But we allow what can they carry over in sick time? 240 hours.
Yes, sir.
That's why we do that. And I'm not sure why Congress passed it, but my guess is they passed it because some businesses don't have sick time, and then some businesses don't let you accumulate 240 hours. If I've accumulated 240 hours over a period of 20 years working for the city, that's why we let them accumulate time. I guess.
We actually let them, they accumulate more than 240. They accumulate everything they don't use for 20 years. If it's an employee that doesn't take much sick leave, he may have a balance of, 2,000 hours to him. So
Yeah.
That's
rollover
that's
at the 240.
yeah. And there are those employees though, and B, I'll tell you, and Jeannie will tell you that use every bit of their sick leave every year.
Yeah, I know. That's the one. I mean, I guess it's it's a fair system, in my opinion, for employees that don't have the benefit that we provide of 8 hours a month, that unlimited accumulation, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if you've got an employee that's only been here a year and it's only accumulated 80 hours, but we allow people to carry their sick leave forward, and what that means is when they retire, that's another 80 hours instead of using their sick leave. That's another 80 hours that they retire early, another 80 hours or whatever. I have some mixed emotions about this. I want to be fair, and I certainly don't want to encourage people to come to work when they're sick. But we provide an excellent benefit package, and we're just tacking another 80 hours on that can be used when people have already saved theirs and used theirs. I don't know.
Well, I will say, Councilman, I do think that the people who are not leave abusers, they're the ones who are going to come to work, and they're the ones that are going to try to make sure they're doing the things that they're supposed to be doing in general. And so that may help some to know that the people who are going to come to work are going to come, they're going to do their 3 W's, and they're not going to abuse the system. And those folks that, have been out, there have been people who are non-teleworkers, but people who may have had to be quarantined and they did not request the leave, they worked instead, and they could have stayed at home and not worked. So I do think that, the majority of our people are going to steward our funds appropriately, but I do understand what you're saying.
Did you say you require they have to have a positive test to get the 2 weeks?
No, they don't have to have a positive test, but they do have to have shown that they have gotten a test or had a close contact. They have to have a reason to be out to quarantine.
So if I go get a positive test tomorrow, just because I feel like it, then I can take off 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, if you have a positive test, we certainly don't want you to come to work. So
I go have a test tomorrow and I'm negative. Can I take off 2 weeks?
So a person who they've had a reason to test. So if you have some symptoms and you need to test, then you're going to need to quarantine the requisite amount of time. It's going to be 10 days if you're positive, 14 days if you're negative, because there's an incubation period in which you could make someone else.
All that I understand, but what I'm saying is I just decided to go get a test and I'm negative.
Yes.
I can take off 2 weeks.
I would need to, likely.
Yeah, okay.
However, we do have folks, we have a situation where someone has already exhausted their leave, their COVID leave. And so, they were a close contact at one time and they had to quarantine. I'm not sure if their test ever turned negative, because generally people take 1 test, they don't take 2 in general, but you do have to quarantine the requisite amount of time. Well, now they have to quarantine again. And so they're going to have to use their own leave because they have exhausted the federal provision. And what we are recommending the staff here in Mebane is that, we just carry over what the federal government already provided as a benefit. So in this case, this person would have 3 hours to use to complete the benefit, but then they will have to use their own leave. So they're not going to get, 180, 160 hours.
Even though this was a federal program, or being that it was a federal program, and we have documented that it's cost us $39,000 plus. Do we anticipate actually getting any money from the federal government?
We do.
We have gotten money. Jeannie.
Yeah.
We did. So what we got was the CARES Act money that came through both of the counties. That was federal money that flowed through the state to the counties and down to us. And that's the money that we've used so far on this benefit. we have now spent all of our CARES Act money. So we don't have any more federal money coming. So anything that we do from here on out is going to be on our own dime.
Okay.
But Jeannie, there is a second round of CARES Act funding that we can apply for.
So we did. They did say that if you had additional money that you could apply for it, and we have already applied. So if they should allocate any further money, then we might get some of it, but we have no award of any additional money at this point.
You know what our first round was?
Have a total right here.
Right.
So it was a total of $242,513.83. That's from both counties. Of that amount, we paid the 30-some thousand in the COVID sick.
Okay, all right.
Talking about.
Now, one thing that I'm really concerned about is a negative test. It's not necessarily a negative test. And I think that's being missed by a lot of folks. These tests are not 100% accurate, positive nor negative. I wish we had a DHHS official online because my fiance is Master of Public Health. I hear this all the time. And I think this is erring on the side of caution and supporting our folks to stay home. Is that not correct, B, that we want to keep them home if they have had some sort of exposure, just in case, because this is a novel disease?
Yes.
So the other thing I would add to that is Mrs. Hunter hasn't come to the office and say, Chris, David, we got employees that appear to be abusing this program. That conversation has not happened. Our goal would be, if somebody has been exposed, for them to be at home to get some pay. As she said earlier, somebody like me, I can go home, work from home. I may miss a day while I'm on quarantine and then be working from home. But we have a large number of employees that they have no option to work from home. So if they are exposed and are on quarantine, they will be using their sick leave or using this leave. And we've sort of hit this critical point right now that we thought it made sense to continue this program. So that our employees did have the option to not use their sick leave, especially right now over these coming months.
Right.
And Chris, just to make sure I'm on the same page, I'm receiving the same emails as you. We're expecting the worst of COVID to be hitting in January and February.
That's what I'm going to say. Yeah. Yeah. The worst is yet to come. Thing. All right.
To follow up with what Mr. Bradley said, we do have a very, very good sick leave program. All of our employees are very happy that the council has provided this program, just like most of the other cities, county, and the state employees. It is phenomenal, but this pandemic is not anything any of us were expecting.
Yeah, and it's not over. All right, do we have a motion?
I motion to approve Mebane COVID sick leave as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Roll call. Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Altore.
Aye.
Mr. Ewing.
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
You were duly noted, Mr. Bradley. All right. Thank you, Mr. Bonner.
Sir.
All right, we're going to the Budget Ordinance Amendment, additional sales tax and appropriations. Jeannie?
Mr. Mayor, while they're on screen, I just feel the need to commend Chris and Stephanie and Jeannie and B this year. This has probably been one of the most difficult human resources years I've seen in my career, and B, being a new HR director coming in, Jeannie, Stephanie, and Chris have done some behind the scenes work on this. Lawson too. You need. I just want to publicly commend them for it and thank them for for doing it. We had some tremendously long conversations, setting policy, making policy, dealing with every possible situation you can imagine. And these folks have risen to the challenge and done it. So well done, everyone. And I thank you for that little interlude, but they need to be recognized.
So I would add, Kirk Montgomery has been here behind the scenes through all of it, and our department heads. I think our entire team has worked really hard to get through this, and we are very grateful to have the people we have.
That is so true. Thank you. Thank you, David, for pointing that out. All right, let's move it on to the budget ordinance.
This again is a follow-up to our December meeting where we talked about the differences in our budget from the time we adopted it to now. And we noted that we had additional revenues that the council might choose to use. The three things that seemed to surface as a consensus were that we wanted to use additional funding for street resurfacing. We wanted to put in place some racial equity training, and we wanted to talk about a downtown coordinator position. So on the street resurfacing, I'm hoping that Franz is on the line and can help us with what they found when they reviewed additional streets that we might want to resurface.
He provided a chart of the additional streets. Most of them are Mill Creek off Old Smoke. Yeah.
We got it.
From the agenda packet, and those just simply were the next street that are on the priority listing. And that priority is a pavement condition report that they used every year for the last few years to determine which streets are the next up to be resurfaced. So there is obviously benefit in consolidating the list of streets that your contractors are going to be working in, so they can actually get some economy and do their deployment with a minimum of moving around. So those are the next streets. The total that they would cost is $250,600. So we would propose to use some of the additional sales tax money that we expect to come in this year to fund those streets. The second item we talked about was some racial equity training, and staff has been working with various contractors in the School of Government to try to come up with the best plan to go forward with racial equity training. At this point, we think that's going to cost somewhere between $15,000 to $20,000. That's our best guess at this point. We don't have a contractor picked out yet, but this budget amendment would use additional sales tax money to authorize $20,000 toward that training. And the final item was the downtown coordinator position that we talked about. Our current budget included $30,000 for a part-time contracted position. Now that we're about to start launching directly into that Main Street program, what we believe is that the $30,000 with the amount of fiscal year that's left between now and the time we would hire somebody, the 30 would be sufficient to do whatever plan we chose to do, whether that was to hire a full-time person, to hire a part-time person, to hire a contractor in this fiscal year. So as part of the budget process for next year, we probably want to undertake the discussion and figure out how much money it would cost us for the full year for next year. So I don't believe we need any money in the budget for this year for the downtown coordinator position. So this budget amendment does not include anything for that. So in total, final thing. While we were writing this budget amendment is when Wayne came up with the DOT work agreement for relocating our underground storage tank. We've known this was coming, but didn't know when it was going to hit during DOT's relocation effort. So, and it happens to be now. So they will pay us $40,000 to relocate that tank, and Wayne needs to carry that forward now. So the other thing in this budget amendment is to budget the receipt of those funds and to provide Wayne the budget to make that storage tank move.
Will 40,000 cover it?
He thinks it will cover it and then some.
Okay, good.
It is an above ground tank, not an underground tank.
Sorry. Any questions or anything else that anybody would like to include?
I move we approve or adopt the budget ordinance amendment as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, roll call. Ms. Auditore,
Aye.
Mr. Bradley,
Aye.
Mr. Ewing,
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. I think we are at the end, and we have some announcements that I think someone's going to announce.
Si's going to talk to us about these.
Apologies. Yeah, just a reminder that there are the deadline has not yet hit. It's at the end of the near the end of the month, Tuesday, January 19th, to submit applications for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. We do have 3 openings, and invite folks. One is from the Alamance County ETJ. The other 2 are city positions. So invite folks to apply for that. We've had some response so far. Nothing like the response to Aaron's call for applications. We'd love to have half as many applicants as him, but good turnout so far. And then this Thursday, we will be having a public meeting for the Lowe's Boulevard Corridor Plan. Understand some folks have had some difficulty finding information on this. It is on the city's community spotlight, and I'll work with Stephanie tomorrow to get this bumped to the top of our Facebook feed and make sure that the link is accessible at the top of the planning and zoning page. That weird website that it's on there is the dedicated web page for the project, similar to the Buckhorn area plan. It is a very interactive website that you can play around with, and it also has a public survey on there that the consultant Ramey Kemp and Associates is using to gather data that may be important in how the final design recommendations are put together and then finally presented to you on the council for adoption, hopefully at our February meeting. Ashley Ownby, our new city planner, is the primary contact for this, but I'm also happy to answer any questions. We look forward to a good discussion at 6 p.m. This Thursday night.
So, just to clarify, if people would like to talk and participate in the meeting, they need to ask Ashley through an email to be invited. If they just want to watch on YouTube, they can do that. But in order to participate, they need to contact Ashley, and then they get an invitation to participate.
Mm-hmm. And this will be presented again a week from tonight at the January Planning Board meeting in a more formal public meeting setting. And the consultant will be available at that meeting as well. But we'll be going into much more detail on Thursday night.
Okay. Note that the office will be closed January 18th for Martin Luther King Day. Do we have any other business to come before the council?
Mr. Mayor, just a couple of comments. The Christmas decorations around town, the new ones I thought were excellent. The lights and the trees out on Fifth Street at the city park, the park out there at the end of Fifth Street. I think Richard Mendenhall and his son Ricky put those up there. They were spectacular this year, I thought. As well as the new house in Bradford Place. I thought that was spectacular.
Well, I appreciate that. I do want to question a rumor that all those lights on Emerson Drive, all the colors, everything did that because I was moving into the neighborhood. I want to squelch that. That's not true. They were doing it before I moved. So, but it is gorgeous. But anyway, thank you.
I'd like to piggyback on Everett's comments. Chris, I I'd like to suggest that Aaron budget for purchasing some new lights every year to the extent that anywhere you ride around in Mebane, you're going to see lights like that. I think it really a lot of color and excitement to the town.
We'll be glad to include that in the budget discussion.
The one you had where you stuck your head in the thing and got your picture made on Clay and what was it, 3rd Street? You know what I'm talking about? Could you get a little bit bigger hole? Tim couldn't get his head in it.
The snow pictures were also great that Aaron set up on the weekends. Those were fantastic.
Yep.
I think Mr. Bradley had that idea originally, and that was a great success this year.
Oh, good job, Tim. I didn't know
What are we
that.
talking about?
That's awesome. The snow pictures.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, they were great.
Families were going there, so that was fantastic. Thanks,
Yeah.
Tim, and thanks everyone. And sharp looking there, David.
I was going to say, this is David Cheek's last official meeting as city manager.
Yeah, that was going to be my next. Thank you, Chris.
Go ahead.
No, I was just that's what I was going to announce, but thank you for doing that. And
I wonder if the masked bandit has any words he wants to say.
Oh, sayonara. I wish I had something prepared, but you know that I wish you all very much success in your continued leadership of the city of Mebane. Honestly, I've never worked for a more progressive, honest, transparent, get things done board in my 37-year career. I commend y'all for allowing staff to do their thing and giving them the resources to do it and giving them the guidance to make it happen. It's Mebane's a very, very well-run city, and it's thanks to the leadership of the council and the good people that you hire. The department heads, I've worked with some of these people now for 10 years, and I've seen them really rise to the challenge. I've seen them grow, and everything's growing in Mebane, so you know your department heads and your people are too. So you know, I commend everyone on the screen and that aren't on the screen. You've made an environment to create a city that is a good place to live, and I believe that's the goal. I mean, from the beginning of time, that's the goal. Is to have a good place to live and reside, and that's what y'all do. And I hope you take pride. You should take pride in it, and the dignity of public service is appreciated in Mebane, and I think it's evident in the city that you're building. I'll leave it at that.
Well said, David. Well said.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
You'll be missed.
I'm already missing y'all.
Well, we will have an opportunity in February to discuss how much we miss you and how valuable you are for the city, and we will always remember the name. I mean, David Cheek, and we really appreciate it, David. And
that is going to be a long meeting if you're going to recognize me, isn't it? I mean,
I'm very teary-eyed. Bring your tissues when you come, okay? And we will.
We'll put it in the consent agenda.
Any chance we can go back to an in-person meeting that in February, or is that outside the realm of possibility?
I don't think that's going to be lifted, Tim. You know more about state government.
Well, can you do a meeting with the council members and everybody else coming in virtually? Because we could social distance the 10 of us, or the 8 of us, 9 of us.
Well, We'll
Let's
work
talk
on it.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
we'll
you
work.
certainly can do a combination meeting like we did before with some of you here, all of you here. Public.
I'll have a cookout at my house and y'all can come out and have a hamburger.
In our car, drive by.
Bye.
All right, any further business to come before the city? Real or, well,
Or imagined.
yeah. If not, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you,
All
guys.
right.
Adios.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.